For as long as I can remember, I've had two voices. The voice I use at home and the voice I use out in the world. At home, my voice is relaxed, frequented with colloquialisms and slang terms that I picked up from growing up in West Oakland. It's free and riddled with opinions, ones that I seldom hold back. That is, until I step out of the door. Out in the world, my voice suddenly changes. It becomes more rigid, more academic, and graced with signs of a woman who is educated but non-threatening, worthy of time and respect, but not in a way that makes her seem intimidating. These voices aren't something that I've consciously constructed. They remind me of counting, in a sense. I don't remember learning how to count, though I know for a fact that there was a time when I couldn't. It is learned but so deeply ingrained within me that it feels like second nature. All my life, I've been shown that there's a deep disconnect between the white, professional world and my black, personal world. There is no intersection between them, no middle ground. I remember when I first started applying to private high schools. I was a black girl from the hood who came from an all-black school where the families were struggling just like mine was. I knew that I was smart. I knew that I was capable of thriving in each school that I applied to. But I also knew that it would take more than that to prove myself to important people. Even at 13 years old, I understood that the way I presented myself meant everything, more so than my white peers. I would spend so much time preparing myself en route to the interviews, tightly squeezed between two strangers on the train as I thought of all the possible questions that could be thrown my way. I would formulate responses in my head, picking and choosing the exact words that I would use, careful not to say anything that would make the interviewers think that I was anything less than the other students they were speaking with. And this didn't just include the way I spoke. I would style my hair in ways that seemed neater and less black. Both my walk and my posture were not my own. And this came at a cost. It came at the cost of having people smile down at me and praise me for being so well-spoken, a light of surprise in their eyes as if they hadn't expected a black girl from West Oakland to carry herself in such a way. And they hadn't. I wish I could say that these sorts of comments infuriated me. I wish I could say that I was offended by them, but in reality I felt a sort of validation from them. I got a high from it, as if I had achieved some standard that my peers could not. I didn't realize that this standard was inherently discriminatory, demeaning, and set so that white students could easily reach it, whereas black students had to strain to arrive at it. This standard was not a reflection of my intelligence or my qualifications. It was a reflection of the fact that from students like me, intelligence and value were not expected in the first place, and were therefore met with patronizing surprise. It wasn't until a few years later that I first heard of the term code switching. I'd only heard it used before to reference those who could alternate between two different languages with ease, but I started to hear about it in a new sense. People started to use it to reference those who could alternate between two different cultural dialects within the same language, so to speak. One of the most well-known examples of this is Ebonics, more formally known as African American Vernacular English, or AAVE. Most people think this is just a fancy term for slang or talk of the hood, but it's so much more than that. With deep roots in slavery and connections to Creole languages, AAVE has been spoken among Black people for centuries. It's an integral piece of African American culture and American culture as a whole. Contrary to what most may assume, it's not an improper or even informal dialect. It has grammatical rules and tenses and several variations. For example, in English, one might say, Jake is going to go to work. In AAVE, that sentence would be, Jake finna go to work. Or try, Jake has been working, which would translate to, Jake been working. Now, I want you to imagine that you hear someone talking like that. I want you to imagine that I had started this TED Talk speaking in such a way, and instead of using the dialect of English that I'm sure you're all more comfortable with hearing. Take a moment and think, really think, about what your first impression might be of me, about what assumptions you might draw about my life, about where I'm from or where I'm going, my intelligence or my value to you. You don't have to share this with anyone, and so I urge you to be completely honest with yourself. Part of what disturbs me so deeply about the concept of code switching is the fact that we as a culture have established a normative, a white normative to be exact. Either subconsciously or consciously, we've all accepted the fact that the white way of speaking is not only the right way of speaking, but but the more intelligent and respectable way to speak. When Black people who speak AAVE enter into a white space, they are not only expected to, but required to alter themselves, their identities, in order to make white people feel more comfortable. If they do not, they risk being outcast and looked down upon. AAVE is only one example of a dialect that can be used to express a wide range of emotions and depth and meaning. If those who speak it are expected to code switch, this comes at a huge cost. A piece of their identity is lost in translation and they immediately feel a sense of displacement. Speaking from personal experience, this is something that I have encountered in almost every stage of my life, in some way or another. And from it, I've internalized this constant shame. I feel as though I'm never being true to where I come from, as though I'm selling out by playing into these ridiculous expectations. And yet I know that I don't have a choice. I know that the moment I utter a phrase in AAVE or use a word like hella, I will be labeled as hood or too Black, which immediately translates into lesser than. I'm caught between wanting to succeed and wanting to stay true to myself, and sometimes it feels like I can only choose one. Code switching acts as a barrier between worlds. As long as the people who are different from the normatives of whiteness and perfection are expected to adhere to such standards, how will we truly ever see each other's differences? We must learn a way to let go of these expectations. We are far too advanced as a society to accept one voice, one reality as the norm. Everyone has something to say, and just because they don't say it in the way that we've all been taught is right doesn't make their message invalid. I spent my whole life not only trying to, but needing to conform to standards that are set by people who don't understand my culture or where I come from, just so that I can get my foot in the door. I'm a smart woman. I have brilliant thoughts, and I know that I'm going to do great things in my life. But the only reason that I'm able to stand here today and tell you that is because I have mastered the art of conforming myself to the normative of whiteness that is required of all those who wish to thrive in professional settings. There are so many people out there who have the ability to change the world, and we can't hear them because of these preconceived notions in our head. And so whether someone speaks in Ebonics or has a speech impediment or a thick accent, I urge you to look beyond the voice and focus on their words, on their thoughts, on their heart. This may seem like common sense or something that you already practice, but no one is free from prejudice, no matter the color of your skin or how woke you think you may be. We've all grown up in a world where whiteness is the norm of beauty, the norm of professionalism and success. No one should be expected to discard their culture each time they step out of the door. As someone who changes my voice and my hair and so many other aspects of my cultural identity daily, I can tell you that it's an extremely damaging and demeaning process. I'm tired of sacrificing my identity in order to make white people feel more comfortable when I immerse myself in discomfort every single day just to succeed. But I can't fix this alone. This is a problem that everyone, especially those upholding the normatives of whiteness, must fight against. The fight must be both conscious and constant, as anything else won't result in tangible change. We all have work to do, some of us more than others. But as long as we hold each other accountable and treat each person that we meet as our intellectual, spiritual equals, I think that our world could be a much more accepting and vibrant place to live. Thank you.